Tonight on Podcast Them Down, we're reviewing KK's Priest, The Sinner Rides Again. What should he have?
Podcast Them Down.
Hail Metal Nation, this is Podcast Them Down. I'm Tim, that's Matt, and Doug. We are here once again to add to our compendium of album reviews. So, to refresh your memory, because apparently the last time we did this was July, we need to define for this release the genre, and then we're going to divide it into acts and review each act separately, and then the presentation and the trueness and metalness of KK's Priest. The Sinner Rides Again.
Normal things.
Mm-hmm. All right, so
everyone talks about.
I will now loudly type into our spreadsheet because that's how we roll. KK's Priest. And I have written Sermons of the Sinner so many times because I know this is probably a discussion topic for later, but this title is so ununique. It's like, It's too easy in my brain to confuse it with the previous album. You're not going to say Ride 'em All or Kill the Lightning, you know?
And point of clarity, we're not reviewing Sermons of the Sinner. We're reviewing The Sinner Rides Again.
Right. Very good clarification.
All right. Genre. Let's discuss the genre before we move any further.
Judas Priest tribute.
Yeah. Spite.
Yeah,
Spite. I like it.
There's a whole season of Curb Your Enthusiasm in which Larry David
the Spite Store.
Yeah, this is the Spite Store. This is a Spite band.
I think we, as it's heavy metal, there's like an outside argument for power metal or traditional metal, but I think heavy metal is really the best label.
Yeah, I don't think an argument for power metal could hold much water.
Mm-mm.
And it's too modern to be traditional.
And I think we're on firm ground because we gave the Tim Owens EP the genre of heavy metal. So I think these are very different works in a way, but I think they're in this genre.
He's a versatile performer, but we'll let that slide.
He is for at least 6 of 9 tracks.
All right, I found the promo for this, if you want to hear this.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
On the blazing heels of their highly lauded 2021 debut album, Sermons of the Sinner, which debuted within the top 20 on charts in the United States, the UK, Germany, Sweden, Finland, and more, KK's Priest returned to sin again with their savage sophomore offering, The Sinner Rides Again, out September 29, 2023, via Napalm Records, the powerhouse heavy metal amalgamation of iconic Judas Priest alum and Grammy Award-winning / nominated musicians KK Downing, guitar, and Tim Ripper Owens, along with AJ Mills, guitar, Tony Newton, bass, and Sean Eig, ELG, drums, doubled down on the ripping melodic force of their debut, which Metal Hammer UK dubbed hugely enjoyable.
Metal endorsement.
And Metal Injection cited as boasting catchy hooks and plenty of guitar wizardry. The Sinner Rides Again boasts 9 tracks of pure hellfire, produced and written by Downing and mixed / mastered by Jacob Hansen. Then there's a bunch of history. After stepping out of the Judas Priest spotlight,
Yeah, maybe I can. I'm remembering our format, and I'm really rusty. Sorry, everyone. We should do a quick rundown, which I'd be happy to do, of how we got here.
I am not going to apologize. I'm sorry, but that's just the way I am.
I
Anyone?
like it.
Anyone?
All right. So
Go ahead.
there was a band called Judas Priest.
Hold, slow down there, Doug.
And there are a lot of people that were in it at various points in time, but the three most important were Robert Halford, Glenn Tipton, and KK Downing, who have all of the writing credits from, I think, 1980 through 1990 exclusively.
I find it interesting you did not mention the only guy who's been in the band and never
the entire time.
Yeah.
Ian Hill is a fantastic bassist, but I think his last writing credit was in the 70s, unless I think he wrote one recently, actually.
I take it back. He was not the original bassist. The original bassist was Bruno Stapenhill. But Ian Hill is the only guy on the records.
Okay.
Yeah, real high level. Judas Priest, one of the earlier heavy metal bands, really pioneered the dueling dual guitar approach. Earlier records a little more arty and bluesy. Then with Killing Machine and British Steel, they transitioned to a very successful, more commercial format. Took some new album, all that. And unlike Maiden, Priest substantially changes record over record. Mm-hmm. And by 1990, they got a new drummer in Scott Travis and completely refreshed their sound into kind of a power speed metal style with Painkiller. Then Rob Halford wanted to explore a more street direction, which the band did not want to do. So Halford formed his own new band with Scott Travis called Fight. Fight released 2 records. Judas Priest was inactive during that period, though Glenn Tipton recorded 2 solo albums, which we'll talk about in our Priest adjacent project episode in the future. Point of comparison with these 2 records later on. Then Halford formed the industrial band 2 and came out and in the very same interview called Metal Dead. And to be clear, to defend this scene, as backwards as it is, that was really what people were pissed off about. The metal is dead comment. But no, that's not what the media wants to talk about or wants you to believe. So in 97, 98, Judas Priest reformed with a new frontman in Tim Ripper Owens from Akron, Ohio.
They had the hit single Stand Up and Shout. Oh, wait, that was the movie. No, that was the movie. Yeah. Sorry, that's the Marky Mark.
I think the story goes that actually Scott Travis saw a tape that someone showed him from several years earlier with Ripper's former band Winter's Bane, which would open up as a Judas Priest cover band called U.S. Steel. With Tim Owens, Judas Priest recorded 2 records, Jugulator, which is kind of Slayer-ish, 90s Slayer-ish, very heavy. The band would argue that was kind of a 2 steps, the missing 2 albums between Painkiller and that. They were just accelerating. And then Demolition, which was like 80s Priest and new metal and everything all at once. During that time, Halford formed the band Halford, which was kind of an audition for Priest. Returning to Priest, and Halford released 2 albums we'll talk about some other time. Halford rejoins the band in 2005. They release Angel of Retribution in 2005. Actually, he joins in 2004, I think. Then we get Nostradamus. Then we get a bunch of drama. And KK Downing, member for the entire recording career of the band, quits in 2011. A lot of different stories as to why. And the band recruits a new guitarist, Richie Faulkner, who's been with the band the last decade, which they've released 2 albums, the last one being very acclaimed and successful. So KK's...
Important footnote, Faulkner's heart literally exploded on stage, and he finished the show.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's pretty metal.
So KK was out of the game for a while. He wrote a very, very metal autobiography called Heavy Duty, where he says a lot of very metal things and comports himself in a very metal way.
Brings out the duty in my soul.
Yeah. And
duty.
I think he produced something, at least one record, and he made his return to stage, I want to say either 2019, 2020 with Ross the Boss and his band.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Bloodstock or something like that. And then KK's Priest was formed. I think its initial lineup was like Dave Ellefson, Les Binks from the 70s, Stained Class, and Ripper, who's been brought back into the fold. They turn into a traditional ongoing band, I think in 2020 or 2021. They release Sermons of the Sinner in 2021 and this record in 2023. All right.
So,
context done.
Nice. All right, so let's go through some tracks and then figure out where the first act ends. I got my notes on a green piece of paper.
Oh no!
So, yeah, I wonder if my notes even show up. No, they don't.
Can't even,
Yeah. You can almost read them.
Yeah, I crammed them onto this thing. So, it opens with Sons of the Sentinel, which is a reference to an earlier Judas Priest song.
That's weird.
It's a double reference because the Sentinel returned on Sermons of the Sinner on the track Return of the Sentinel.
So this is Unforgiven 3?
I don't have Sermons of the Sinner handy, so you're gonna need to yeah.
The Sentinel is a character established in the Defenders of the Faith song, The Sentinel, which seems to be some kind of robot warrior in a post-apocalyptic future.
Yes. And it can procreate, apparently.
He returns on the one, and this one, it's his son, who I think is not a literal son.
Oh, okay. I was about to ask.
There is a video. It's very Metal Gods-ish, as in there are a bunch of giant robots doing things.
So, the song starts off with like a kind of a synthy intro of some kind.
Okay.
And first of all, I'm tired of bands that I had a longer tolerance for it than other people I know, but I'm tired of bands opening their albums with a throwaway synth nothing that no one cares about. So, but not even my son likes them now. He goes, skip the first track. I'm like, yes, sir. So, gladly. And then I smile to myself. So, I'm glad it was short this time, but it would have been, how much better would it have been if it just started with that drum fill that's like, that's just like an attack,
Yeah.
No, because if you start with that, you're like, holy fuck. If you start with a synth intro, it's like, oh, this could be anything, and it's probably crap.
To be clear, I have no issue with the synth intro. I do think there would be no harm in doing what you suggested and just starting with the drums. In general, there's kind of an interesting sort of good, sort of bad, kind of fantasy gothic vibe to this record, and the previous one that's not super Priest-like. But I guess that's the way they sort of carve their own identity. But yeah, I really like this song. It's fast and short. We get the Priest tropes, and it's kind of Judas Priest by the numbers, with more emphasis on keyboards, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Good guitar solo break, and the only thing that kind of annoys me is the vocal repetition at the very end that's kind of maidenish.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, totally agree. Also, you remember that Manowar song where they say metal like 5 times in a row? That's what this song is. We are the sons, defenders from hell. We are the sons of the Sentinel. That's like 1/3 sons. Yeah, and then towards the very end, they say defenders like a bajillion times. Well, really only 4.
It's the Sentinels on the
way too
Defenders
many.
of the Faith record.
I thought they were defending Jugulator at first, but then I realized no.
The sons of the Jugulator. Yeah.
I mean, that'd be cool.
I'm looking forward to when the Jugulator's going to come back.
The Jugulator rides again.
To jugulate.
It itself. Yeah.
He's been canceled. That's why they only sell 2 Jugulator shirts on JudasPriestShop.com.
I'm not a fan of the second bridge on this because I think it's like kind of weak and aimless, and it reminds me too much of the weak and aimless Iced Earth songs that Ripper was forced to sing a few times.
Yeah,
they could have cut out 30 seconds. It would have been fine.
I concur. I will say, in general, it is impressive how short most of the songs of this record are in a refreshing way.
That is.
Oh, well, that's a good segue into the next one, Strike of the Viper, under 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, there's an honesty to that. I think this is the fast and concise song. I think it's got kind of a bridge that borrows from a Rammstein song, which is interesting. Kind of a doomy main riff. I kind of got Nostradamus vibes, the better songs on Nostradamus.
Yeah, you're right.
This wasn't the primary culprit, but I started to notice on this song a quality to Tim Ripper Owens' voice that perplexed me because I didn't hear it on the other record. And at first I thought he was tired, but I think it's some way that they're processing him where it just doesn't quite get there. There's lots of like chorus, like multiple voices, like he's multi-track over himself. And this was the first one I noticed it on, but then it continues throughout. And I was like, that's not great.
Yeah, I don't have the...
I think that's a stylistic choice from the mixer.
Yeah, it's still wrong, but...
I remember it's not this song, but there's one, I can't even describe but I don't know if, I think it's more him than an effect, but he sounds kind of Glory Hammer-ish on one song.
I mean, he does have different kind of...
I know what you're talking about.
Aspect of his performance, yeah.
It might be him 66 or the one after. I think
it's The Sinner Rides Again, but it could be him.
Yeah, you're right. I think it's that.
It's somewhere in those middle tracks.
And Tim, feel free to interject. Your disagreement, but I think our kind of institutional position would be we prefer band-oriented records rather than one guy and some session musicians, usually. And this is a very interesting kind of bridge of both.
Yeah.
Because there is a consistent band, both records. KK was the sole credited musician on the first record. As I was just confirming, this song is Downing and Mills. It's the only song with a credit to someone other than Downing. But if I recall, the drummer and one of the guitarists were the engineer and the mixer for the record. So it's more than KK and some engineer or no one. Yeah, the band seems to have actively contributed.
Who do you think came up with the growl thing that keeps happening?
Yeah.
They kind of like, the narrator, like the occultic voice thing.
No. In Strike of the Viper, he keeps going. And but I'm sorry, vipers don't growl.
Yeah, I think that's kind of harkens back to a bit on Jugulator.
I just think it's in the wrong song. Because again, it's a snake. It's a high. That's the sound you hear before it bites you, before it strikes. It doesn't. You're
thinking about this song a lot more than they did. It's just a bunch of words.
Counterpoint. They did one of my favorite Judas Priestisms, and I bet this took a lot of thought. There's a line: "It will strangleize until its victim dies." I love it.
I mean, that's great. However, a viper wouldn't strangleize because it's venomous.
That would be a constrictor.
So I mean, if this was called like Crush of the Python, that's a fucking song.
In the song's defense, if we look at the videos and all that, it seems to exist in a fantasy universe where maybe there are constricting vipers.
Okay.
That growl. Okay. I'll live with that. Okay.
We can just talk about the lyrics here. There is this secret sauce to the Priest lyrics. I believe Halford is essentially the lyricist. Glenn Tipton is the master of writing songs that are about absolutely nothing. Like, if you look up the lyrics to Demolition, I couldn't tell you what a devil digger is, but I sure hear about it for 6 minutes. And so I think like you can tell what KK is talking about. Like the songs are about things and have a internal drive to them lyrically. So props there, but the lyrical themes again are more fantasy gothic than Priest, but also are a little narrow, I would say. It's either kind of monster songs, horror songs, or songs about the brotherhood of metal. That actually sounds pretty broad for metal, but it's a little repetitive on this record. Especially
this doesn't talk about the brotherhood of metal. It talks about no, it doesn't, because everything is fuck you, Glenn Tipton. It's more like the brotherhood of fuck you, Glenn Tipton. That's what it
Pledge Your Souls is a little occultic, but it does get into the performance and fandom of metal. But yeah, a lot of it is I can do Judas Priest better than Judas Priest.
Perfect example is Reap the Whirlwind, which is the next track 3. It's clearly it's like, oh, you pissed me off. You sowed the wind. Now you're gonna reap the whirlwind. And KK's Priest is coming for you, Judas Priest. That's what I got out of it. Note on Metal Archives: there is no apostrophe in its when you say you can feel its might. You fucked up. Let's see if it's in the booklet.
Oh, you beat me to it. Yeah.
No, it's in the booklet. God damn it!
Haha!
This thing is trash now. Couldn't get a fucking editor.
I was available.
You would have done it for cheap.
I think that's consistent with some of the grammar in the Priest liner notes too.
You can feel it is might? No. Wrong. Anyway,
it's possessive.
I really like this song.
Yeah.
This should have been the opening track.
This should be, yeah. No, I agree. This is an opening track.
This is pretty
And not a closing
straightforward
track.
and in your face and metal as fuck.
I might consider the album as starting here. Personally,
the first 3 songs are all good opening tracks, and they're coincidentally or not the first 3 singles too.
Okay, I guess I can see that.
Okay, so that's what I called end of the
Act
first
one.
act.
Yeah,
Act
agreed.
1. So, for this, I'd say room for improvement, but not terrible. I mean, especially closing it out with Reap the Whirlwind. So, my rating, which is 0 to 10, I'm going to give this whole act a 7.
It gets an 8 from me. I actually think this is really strong. There's not much variety yet, but you could argue you don't, in a 9-track heavy metal record, you wouldn't want that yet. So 3 fast songs, all crowd pleasing. It's a good job.
I really don't like Sons of the Sentinel. I warmed up more on Strike of the Viper. I do really enjoy Reap the Whirlwind. I personally think this is the weakest act. So I'm going to give it a 6.
All right, Act 2 starts with One More Shot at Glory. Oh my god. Another Priest reference.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
One
this would be
more
a
Priest
direct callback to One Shot at Glory, the last song on Painkiller. It is a different song. It's a catchy mid-tempo song with kind of a doomy opening. And I don't know if you saw the video, Tab. It's not as apparent on the album, but they do the hammer and anvil smashing
Oh,
at
yes.
the very beginning.
Nice.
This is a great song. Really, really catchy.
I'm getting classic Priest vibes from this because it's at that tempo, that 80s tempo.
And it's got tempo changes at that. First song with those, I believe.
Retreat with shame. This battle is won. Oh, and yeah, it has the double kick bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Which
the bridge is really well done.
Yeah, I think that kind of modernizes it from just being an 80s nostalgia track.
It feels new yet familiar.
Yes.
Which is what I think the only reason you want to turn on a KK's Priest record to begin with.
Yeah. But, well, it's a good thing he stops being self-referential after this part.
Well, this is there's only one more song that directly references a Priest song or character in the title.
Okay, so that's a help.
My only problem with the song, I think the outro overstays its welcome. It's like, yeah. They could have spiced it up somehow, or shortened it.
I'd make that maybe on some future songs. I would agree with that. I thought this song was just fine, very strong actually.
Okay.
All right. And again, all of these songs, I think there's only maybe 2 songs longer than 5 minutes. Yeah, 2 songs, which is impressive these days.
Yeah, they're both towards the end.
So we get Hymn 66.
Okay.
One of the things. Good.
It finally happened. So Primal Fear is basically Judas Priest. No, it's Painkiller the band, right? And then Primal Fear kind of like evolved, and then they added this. I forgot what album it was. Was it Seven Seals? The spoken monologue, and now Judas Priest or in this case, KK's priest, is trying to be Primal Fear. It finally happened. The circle is complete. And just like Seven Seals, it doesn't come off evil, it comes off stupid. I'm sorry.
How dare you?
They do this maybe 3 or 4 times across the 2 records, and I do agree. Again, it's more lift your voices to give praise to our Lord Demos, God of all turmoil, fear, and dread. Yeah, I mean it's cheesy, kind of appealing to the 12-year-olds out there, and that's kind of appropriate, and it's also kind of not great.
Once it gets into the song, I think it's fine. But as I said, it gets better when it kicks in.
It's also like leaning on the Satanism without crossing the line to being satanic, which is, I think, not the only.
Is that
song
why it's
that's
66
like
and not 600?
66? Yeah. And your Lord Demos.
I wrote, quote, "Okay there, Primal Fear."
Yeah, only in metal do you expand the genre through reduction.
Right.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add.
Yeah,
to this song.
it's fine.
I mean,
That's all I wrote.
I like this song musically. I didn't like the attack. Again, there's something weird with the vocal performance because he has like a weird tremolo in his voice. So it's like attack of war, and I just didn't know what. Like that's a choice. I believe he can sing. They said, "What if you sang it all warbly wobbly?" And I was like, "What? Why? What is? What are you gaining from this?"
I got no answer. What? So that happened in this song some more?
Yeah, no, like you have the weird Satan thing, then you have like the Mars Bringer of War interpolation, and then it gets good. It's like a musical intro, and then it's like attack of war, and it's just why?
As far as I'm concerned, there's only one Bringer of War, and that's Ramsey's Bringer of War by Nile.
Ramsey's. All right, that's true.
All right. Track 6, The Sinner Rides Again. Because if you didn't know, see, the sinner is KK, who used to be in Judas Priest, you see?
Right.
And now he's back. Again.
Well, and The Sinner is a song and character on the record Sin After Sin. And it depends on what version of the, like, so, all right, so the Painkiller is definitely the Angel of Retribution on the cover of Angel of Retribution. Everyone agrees on that. The Painkiller is potentially the Exciter on a motorbike and encased in more metal.
Okay.
And the Exciter may be the Sinner or the Angel from the Sad Wings of Destiny cover. Like, I've seen different versions. But side note, listen to Exciter, the song. It's like Painkiller if they wrote it in 1978. And I don't listen to the 70s Priest enough, and it's all great.
Well, don't worry, we will. We will.
Yeah, and there's a lot of the 70s Priest on this record, but with a modern sheen, and much more direct callbacks than Priest is doing lately, anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, so, all right, so Tim, I wrote a note that I think is completely false. I disagree with now. But, you know, when you do the double up the guitar parts, either because you're truly doubling or you've got a left-right dynamic, what side does the guitar usually start on?
Oh, left.
Oh.
That's how I'd do it.
I would have said right, because that way it sticks out if you're listening to it in stereo versus mono. But this does right, but I got this profound observation. I've observed that left is probably more common. So
yeah, well, Okay, to be fair though, I mix my records backwards. All right, so if you listen to anything I've mixed, I have mixed it such that you are sitting behind the drum kit, which is the opposite how people usually mix as if you're looking at the drum kit. And that is on purpose by me. So,
what do you believe it gains you?
Because that's how I can't explain it. It sounds wrong to me if, because I've sat behind a drum kit. This is how you play it, and even like the drum visualization software I have is like, you're sitting behind the drum kit. So of course I'm going to pan it like that. So,
so it's literally how you the spatial relationship with the performance of music interpreted and how you hear it. No, that's very interesting.
Yes. Now there, one counter example of that is Dave has these two big toms, and I think on at least one record, so they wouldn't muddy each other up, I put one of them over on the other side. So
it's like you're sitting inside of the snare drum.
Man, I hope you don't have too many prog listeners.
Yeah, I just blew their minds.
I think he's going to get some more after this discussion.
That people don't worry about the spatial relationship of what's his name's kit exactly matching how they hear it in stereo.
I don't want to quite reveal exactly what day we are recording this, but did you hear the huge prog news? The huge prog news?
No.
Okay, this is old news by the time it airs, but Mike Portnoy's back in Dream Theater.
Oh boy.
That's huge prog news.
And people are like crying. They're so happy.
HPN.
Yeah. So anyway.
Listen to the Gathered podcast on this subject.
Yeah, we have that to look forward to.
Oh man, I'm so excited.
Okay, so The Sinner Rides Again.
Uh-huh.
I said it's kind of samey as the other tracks, but it comes off it's still solid. It has another great chorus. But then I wrote here, those were the best whammy dives you got. I do a few more takes. Those were kind of lame. You are part of the guys who did Painkiller. Mm-hmm. That's all whammy dives that are amazing. Why are you going to cheap out on whammy dives?
I have to confess that I wasn't paying very much attention to the song because I kept saying to myself, I had the titular line. The titular line.
I am so tired of all these Star Wars.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Is this the first slow, fast, slow song?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it reminded me of Judas Rising from Angel of Retribution.
Okay.
Because it's kind of a monster song, and this is the one with the kind of ripper and kind of a glory hammer style, and I can't even describe what I mean by that, but near the end of the song.
Yeah. I thought it was a guest vocalist.
Well, yeah, no, like the construction of the vocals are all over the place, and I don't really understand why.
Yeah,
well, there's no one in part Ripper is such an effective range. He could even do, of course, growly stuff, which Halford never could.
The shows up in this song too.
It does, but I just feel like I think it's variety for the sake of variety versus what works in this song. So I just disagree with a lot of the vocal choices, but I don't doubt his talent. It's just like, why are you doing that now? Doesn't seem right.
Interesting who was behind the wheel, whether it's him or Kay. I mean, probably a collaboration, but
right, yeah. But I wonder if I was wondering the same thing. Is this genuinely what he would want to do, or is like, hey, what if you did a blah, blah, blah? I was like, I guess. I guess I could do that.
I really like the solos in this song too.
Yeah, this had good soul. I felt like this is still in Act 2, but this is kind of the transition to Act 3. But I liked what was here.
Yeah, Tim, correct, as an actual guitar player, correct me when I misspeak. But I think one of the distinctive things about Downing and Tipton is not only besides, at least in metal, kind of coming up the template for the dual lead guitars and with the dueling solos and all that, but they really kept current with their style. The new album stylistic changes they embraced, the thrash stylistic changes. None of the other big bands moved with the time in the way they do. So they're very expansive stylistically and very fast, but perhaps lack the precision you might get in the really speed metal bands and prog.
I like a little slop in the in the guitars. If you go listen to Dream Theater covering, speaking of Dream Theater, covering Master of Puppets, you'll understand why the slop makes it interesting. Because when Dream Theater did it, it was too perfect. Like, and it loses something, So, but yeah, I think you're totally spot on.
Yeah, I remember Judas Priest guitar parts. Dream Theater was ready that review one of these years, but it just falls right out of my head.
Yeah,
not bad. They're maybe too good. All right. So Matt, you think this is the end of the act?
I think this is an even 3-3-3, at least as I conceive of it.
I agree.
All right, I'll go with that.
So, because the next song kind of starts quiet,
something
too.
new, yeah.
Act 2. I think the only weak part is that thing in hymn 66 I don't like. So, I'll give Act 2 an 8.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go with an 8 as well.
And I this is market improvement. I'm going to give this a 7.5. It's not an 8 yet for me. But it's
going to go ahead and fill in 8 on this last part.
I mean, hey, I'm not telling you what to do.
So, Act 3 starts with Keeper of the Graves, which has a long acoustic intro, and it has Ripper saying things kind of evilly, and it works so much better than the pitch shifted voice, which I hate.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
It sounds like the beginning of an epic, but this song is only 5.5 or so minutes, but maybe, I'd believe it if you told me the last 3 tracks were a trilogy if they didn't. I know. Well, we'll get to that one.
Yeah, he almost sounds kind of like, of course, King Diamond or even Alice Cooper. Yeah, he's using his voice in a for dramatic effect in the context of the song. And I think one of the interesting things about the Priest catalog is Halford really got good, really good in a contemporary way on Painkiller, which I'd argue was really the first record where he used his significant vocal range dramatically in kind of a narrative sense and not just a kind of a musical convention sense or to stay above the guitar in a showy way, a purely showy way.
Yeah.
And this is very much in line with that. It's kind of maidenish with the build, how would be thy name, all that.
Yeah, this might be my favorite track. Maybe.
This is my favorite track.
It's good. It's got a lot of dynamics.
Yeah.
And when it kicks in hard. With a fist.
See, now when I was listening, I was very nervous because I thought getting out of the Sinner Rides Again, I'm like, we're going into the last third of the album now. Probably gonna get worse before it gets better. A good closing track, and two just kind of, roly-polies to kick down the road before we get home. And I was just so pleased that this delivered everything I wanted.
Yeah, usually you hide your bad songs towards the end of the album.
Yeah. We can't play this. We can't put this in the first half of the album. It's too good.
No, we need the 3 songs that sound the same. That's how you open a record.
That's right.
They're your 3 singles.
Well, everyone in the band disagreed as to what song should be the opener. What if they're all the opener then?
Well, I think between the 2 records, they've written like 5 songs that is the perfect song to open a set with.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I agree. It's this not entirely musically, but in the feel, it's got like Necromancer and Nightcrawler, Evil Never Dies from recent Priest records. Really good job.
All right. Next is Pledge Your Souls. This, if they used a much smaller vocabulary, could be a Manowar song almost.
Yes.
And I mean that as a compliment. It's a good anthem.
Yep.
I want to see this one live because it's very this, Oh, but then Ripper does it again. Whoa! But this time he turns it into a scream.
And he kind of there's got to be I really should look up the term for this, but he shouts or kind of the melody like Bruce Dickinson-ish, which is just annoying in generically. I guess it works. I like this song too.
Like when he goes whoa, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
It's better when Ripper does it.
Well, obviously.
You
I'm
get a really
TRO.
70s Priest riff and then the contemporary double bass sound. Good song.
All right. I didn't want to do this one. All right. Then Wash Away Your Sins, the final track of the album. Or as I wrote here, Hymn 66 again. Enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's a part where it goes, away. And I hated that.
And we got a sort of a choral and scary voice opening again, if I recall.
Yep. Some sustained chords on the synth.
Slow, fast, slow. And then it just doesn't kind of abruptly end. Like it feels like it wants to build to something and then it doesn't.
Yeah, that's true too.
I mean, what this sort of reminds me of is probably the song people want to hear live the most from Jugulator that's never been played is the closing track called Cathedral Spires. It's similar to that in some ways. It's not terrible, but yeah, Hymn 66 was this song, but more concise.
Yeah, once again, when the song comes in, it's fine, but like it takes ages to get there. Yeah. I'm distracted by you talking about building and then never quite getting there, which is like Iced Earth has done that to us so many times.
Mm-hmm.
The Gettysburg Trilogy has, if you listen to the charge at Gettysburg, it starts to build, and then literally the next line is, "It's over now, we are retreating." You forgot to write the climax. And then same thing with the Something Wicked albums. We're gonna do a whole episode on the failure of Iced Earth to be able to build to something. The last Iced Earth album that Ripper was on, Something Wicked Part 1, sets the stage, right? And then the second album that they brought Matt Barlow back for builds and builds and builds. and you get to this point where it's like, oh, what's gonna happen? And then the last song is, come what may. It's literally, no, you forgot to write the climax of the story. Anyway.
All he ever had was a premise that he struggled along for 20 years. And he still is, actually, right?
Yeah, I think he was adding to it. Maybe his prison album will flesh it out some more, but
how do those Ripper albums hold up to you, near 15, 20 years on?
Well, I was never a huge fan of The Glorious Burden. There's a handful of good songs, and then Gettysburg is almost great, but I tend not to listen to them. I'm also baffled why people love that album so hard.
Yeah, it's very popular.
And then Framing Armageddon has a lot of great stuff on it, and great performance from Ripper. But there's also like a lot of like kind of fluff. So. But I definitely listen to that one more, even though most fans don't like it.
What's
anyway? So that's Iced Earth. We should get back to KK's Preach.
Yeah, good point. Look for our Iced Earth reviews in 2026. Whole catalog.
Yeah, we'll do it after the sentencing.
Yeah. And none of these spoken word prison albums, those aren't getting reviewed.
It can be during the trial, and we could have 12 angry days of Iced Earth reviews.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, wash away your sins is as aimless as that conversation just was.
Yeah. That was a brilliant performance piece you just did there, Tim.
Thank you. And I think they hit the sin stuff too hard. Like by the time you get to this album, it's like, okay.
We get it. Is KK chrétien? Is he one of the born again metal people?
No, nothing to know of.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and the song just kind of stops. Like, let's fade it out now.
It's kind of Christian, but it's like fantasy religion.
That's what I get. It's like they're not quite there, but you could, it's like one of my favorite songs to work out to is Rage Against the Machine because they're totally apolitical, and so like if you want to,
no, they're woke now. They didn't used to be woke.
What the hell happened?
Right, angry against relatable things.
Did you see Pink Floyd went woke too, putting rainbows all over their stuff?
No.
Next, you're gonna tell me Dio was in a band called Rainbow. Anyway,
at least Judas Priest will never go woke.
You were working out the Rage Against the Machine.
Something about religion.
What I'm saying is, you could play this for your Christian metal friend, and he could be like, I like it because it has a message. But you could give it to your satanic metal friend, and he would be like, I like it that it's just like not really over the head preachy Christian metal.
Yeah. I think it's kind of tying back into Sad Wings of Destiny, Sin After Sin, you could argue, kind of very early Gothic metal in some ways. And this whole album is sort of fantasy Gothic when Priest really settled into more of a techno-apocalyptic style overall.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%.
Anyway, Act 3 is solid. I'd give it, again, 2 great songs and 1 meh song. So I'm gonna stay with my 8. Pretty consistent.
Well, there's 2 great songs and what mess song, and that's what gets them to an 8.
It's a 7. Keeper of the Graves is great. I just think Hymn 66, Pledge Your Souls, and Wash Away Your Sins are all very similar. And 2 of them are pretty good. 2 of them could be on a record. All 3 together, it's a little too much of the same. I do have to really give this album credit for only being 40 minutes long and only having 9 tracks instead of the usual 14 and then topping out at 55, 60 minutes pointlessly.
It fits conveniently on a vinyl. We also like to rate the presentation. So I got the CD, and unfortunately, it's a digipack. I don't like digipacks.
You hate that.
I don't like it. They don't last.
Hey, they don't have Judas Priest money, okay? They don't have jewel case money. They
jewel cases are cheaper to make than digipacks.
I agree with you about the wear and tear. I do think digipacks leave a better impression when they're done well, and this one's done pretty well. At least there's a little pocket for the insert, and you don't have to. It's not like the one fold and then the 2 cardboard holder thing.
Yeah.
Where the disc or the insert will fall out at random.
Yeah, at least it's a nice digipack. I'll give them that.
Okay,
They I've done this, so I can spot it. They kind of to fill out the artwork on the digipack, they didn't buy more artwork. They took the cover, which is the sinner, I assume, riding a ghost horse who's on fire through fire. All right. But then on the inside, they just zoomed in on same thing. But so I would give a point off for that. But the booklet they commissioned art for every single page.
Yeah. It's a good booklet.
Yeah. So there's artwork across both pages, and then each song has its own dedicated page for the lyrics. So I will forgive them for this because of this.
Would you be saying that you're washing away their sins?
Yes. Although some of these don't quite make sense, because One More Shot at Glory has a throne with a skull with a crown on it. And a Gibson Flying V on it.
Did you just pick up a Manowar album by mistake?
No, I don't think they played Flying Vs. But some of this looks like it's been used to train AI. Oh, and they do slip in the KK's priest symbol here and there, which is pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. And the logo, having a consistent logo is good. It's not like the most original thing, but it tying back to the priest logo stained glass.
Yeah, and they got Shao Kahn.
Oh, that's cool.
It looks totally like Shao Kahn from Mortal Kombat 2 in the
Lord
booklet.
of the Outworld, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, and the scary voice kind of sounds like Shao Kahn.
And then Shang Tsung. So someone's been playing. Someone's been playing some Sega Genesis, putting in the blood code ABACABB.
You weak, pathetic fool.
Yeah. Anyway, it's other than the digipack. I appreciate a complete booklet. The back of the booklet does have the band, and it says right here, Ripper Owens. I like how they won't. I like all the articles say Tim Ripper Owens. But goes, no, I'm Ripper Owens. And then same with the band photo. Just says Ripper Owens. And he's like, hey guys, what's up? He's got his arms out.
The story is, he always was just Tim Owens until, the story is like Glenn Tipton or whoever heard him singing The Ripper, and then you're Ripper Owens, and that's all he was credited in his jugulator. And I think very purposefully he was just Tim Owens on the Iced Earth record, the first one at least.
Interesting.
But I think he's more comfortable with the identity now that he has a whole career.
Yeah, and one last thing about the packaging I noticed is it says Hellfire Thunderbolt Records. Hellfire Thunderbolt was a song off the first album, KK's Priest album. but this is catalog number HTR01. So I'm pretty sure they did what Metallica did and just started their own record company, probably for tax reasons and for, like the record company owns the rights to all the recordings and this and that. So it makes me wonder what the deal is with the previous album,
Which is on a different label too. And this album really feels like a better version of the first record.
I'll agree with that.
It's like Sermons of the Sinner 2.0.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, like, with both these records, I don't know, when you say the guitarist of a band is doing 2 solo records, you just imagine something on like Cleopatra Records, like Dee Snider's whatever, and cheap artwork, tinny sound, and this isn't that at all. These are well produced, good contemporary sound, quality art. I mean, this is a good project. Both records that kind of blow up the template and definitely give. We'll talk about this more later, but the Glenn Tipton solo records, even the Halford solo records, even Fight, a good run for their money. This is 2 quality albums back to back.
Yep. Well, I'm going to give Presentation an 8. I'm only going to knock that off a point for the Digipack. Otherwise, it would have been a 9.
8 sounds right to me.
Yeah, it's an 8.
Okay, and then our final category, Trueness/Metal. It's KK Downing. I mean, it's Ripper Owens. Hard to get more metal than that. And some guys. So, and they got the motif right. They may have overstayed the welcome on some of the Sinner stuff, but still, I'm gonna give it a 9 for trueness and metalness. And the Decibel. It's fun. I haven't read the article in Decibel magazine about this yet, but they reviewed it and gave it a 5 because the guy couldn't get over the fact that he whined about Judas Priest for most of the record. So, but come on,
metal.
Yeah, exactly. That's part of what makes it metal. It's not the whole thing, but a significant portion of this is a fuck you to Judas Priest. So,
and an effective one. There's a good argument this is better than Redeemer of Souls, which has not aged well, and depending on your taste, Firepower even also. Like, he couldn't have, if the objective was to blow Judas Priest off the stage in the budget he can afford, he couldn't have done a better job. Like, 2 very solid records and a very solid band and good songs, and there's a impressive consistency to the branding and all the music videos, which I think there are 4 or 5 between the 2 records now. It's a really well-mounted project.
I'm gonna have to watch those.
Yeah, they're all again. You expect something cheap, but they don't feel cheap.
Mm-hmm.
What's your metal score there?
9.
This is a 9. I mean, for all the reasons you've covered, it's a good old album.
All right, good old album. We'll send some stickers to Napalm Records so they can put that on there. Good old album. Podcast them down.
Matt from Podcast them down says it's a good old album.
All right. Are we right? Are we wrong?
You're right.
No.
Oh.
Answer the question. Put it in the comments. Share it. And if you really want to complain, write to You're Wrong at podcastthemdown.com. So I'm looking forward to their third album. Son of the Sinner rides again on the Sentinel. Something. Until next time, Metal Nation, please put it in a jewel case. No more digipacks.
Cast
don't overthink it either. Put it in a standard jewel case.
Kind of like our format where we obsess over numbers and share no numbers at the end.